In this video, we're going to see how we can import some standard assets into our game project that Unity has already built for us. And these standard assets are going to do things like allow us to explore our levels in a first-person view and add some particle systems that are already pre-made for us, so we can go ahead and start focusing on the aesthetic of our level rather than creating these complex particle systems from scratch. So without further ado, I'm inside of a new scene, a new project here, just to give an example of how to do this. What we want to do is we want to go up to Window and click on the Asset Store. We get brought to this Asset Store. You can see there's tons of stuff to get. These are all tools and assets and packages that the community and Unity have made. Some are free, some are cheap, some are full-featured and expensive, but they're all there for you to use. Unity kind of in itself is kind of bare bones, so the asset store is where we get a lot of extras from. So to get what we're actually looking for, though, let's go into our search field right here, and let's type in standard assets. It used to be that Unity included this as a standard folder or a standard feature inside the engine. It was already installed when we program installed, but these days you have to actually download it from the internet. So what we're going to look for is this standard assets right here. Let's go back because you might confuse it with the standard assets for Unity 4 right here. No, that is not what we want. What we want is this thumbnail and something that just says standard assets. So we're going to click on it. I've already downloaded it, so after you download it, go ahead and resume the video here. So maybe pause it to give you a chance to give yourself the time to download it. And then once we see the import button right here, let's click it. And Unity is preparing the package that we downloaded. And pretty soon here, it's going to open up a package import option. So perfect. It's probably best to go ahead and I don't think we need sample scenes unless you want to see some of the standard assets at work here. So let's unclick that folder right here. We can collapse them with our collapses right here. Let's unclick sample scenes and let's just make sure standard assets is clicked, and let's go to import. All right, so Unity is going to take its time to unpackage and install these assets. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video as Unity does this. We're still in the middle of downloading or importing this. We've already downloaded importing this package into Unity, and you can see there's a lot of assets being brought in. So there are ways where you can pick and choose what standard assets you want to include in the import here to cut down on project size. But for the most part, go ahead and just import anything. It may make your projects a little bit bigger. Maybe in the future we can see which folders we can go ahead and delete out of our project. But be careful. If some of these folders we're downloading work in conjunction with one another. So if you accidentally delete some of these assets that we're installing here, then it may just break. It may break the game, and your game won't compile, and that'll be a sad time. All right. So why don't we go ahead and see how we can utilize our first-person controller so you know how to bring it into your future levels. As you see me build the level we're going to be making here, you'll see me going into a first-person view multiple times to test the level. So this is how we actually get that going on in our future level. What I'm going to do now is go to Game Object, create a 3D object, and create a plane. This will give me something to walk on, something to kind of gauge if the controller is working properly, and I'm just going to make a random cylinder in here as a point of reference so I know when I'm rotating or not. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our project window down here. We're going to select standard assets, and we're going to go into where it says characters, first person controller, prefabs, and if your project window doesn't look like mine, it's got thumbnails, for instance, then that's no big deal. This little slider down at the bottom left of our project asset viewer is what allows us to control the size of those. I like to pull mine all the way to the left so I can actually see the full written out word of what we're trying to get. So inside of the prefabs folder that we just navigated to, remember we were in standard assets, characters, first person controller, prefabs. We're going to drag and drop this thing called FPS controller into our scene. So just left click, drag and drop it into our hierarchy up here on the left side of our screen. We're going to go ahead and delete the main camera because guess what? Our first person controller has a camera already inside of it. You can see the icon for it right there. And then with my move tool selected with the W key, I'm going to just pull this capsule up above my ground, wherever that may be in the level. And I'm going to press play. And now we're inside the game view, and standard WASD movements apply spacebar jumps, shift sprints. I don't think they have a crouch built in, but we don't need a crouch. So this is how we can get a first-person controller into our scene here, and how we can start walking around our levels and test our levels. Great. Why don't we see how we can utilize another of the assets that we just installed, and we'll be seeing this again in a chapter further on down the road. But we're going, or a video further down, we're going to look at particle systems right here, and we're going to go to the prefabs there, and then I'm going to bring in a dust storm and just drop it into my scene here. And we automatically get a dusty kind of storm here. You'll see me play with some of these prefabs a little bit later. And why don't we bring in Fire Complex right here? So Fire Complex, the one thing we need to know about the Fire Complex is the best looking fire. But over here in our components, we have minimum duration and maximum duration. We want to go ahead and jack these up to be pretty long. Otherwise, the fire will die out after a few seconds. We're going to press play. We see my fire there. A little hard to see because everything's so white. And we also see my particle dust storm rolling over my plane here. So those are two examples of tools that the Standard Assets download provides for us, and we're going to be using them throughout the rest of this chapter, making our level inside of Unity, getting used to Unity, getting comfortable inside the engine. So when we start programming, we're not programming in a brand new alien place. We're going to feel pretty comfortable with Unity after this first big introductory assignment. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and don't forget to bring in your first-person controller in your future levels and test changes constantly. Thanks.